My name is John. I'm a sinner. I have real, serious problems. And they will keep me from life. They will mess up my relationships. I can't solve them on my own. But in this community, the worse your story, the warmer you're welcome. There's nobody so far gone down that road that the love and care of God cannot begin to turn things around and bring healing. And that's what we're doing together in the Fellowship of the Withered Hand. We're learning from the 12 steps of AA. We come today to step number 4, made a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. Now, this one is very concrete. It's, folks in AA will say, the most productive step of all 12 steps. Because you'll find when you're facing this one, all of a sudden, you feel tremendous motivation to do anything but this step. And things that you have put off doing for years will become irresistibly compelling right now. I got to clean out the garage. I got to rotate the socks in my sock drawer. I got to get all the photos in my iPhone categorized. I've been wanting to learn Sanskrit for years. Now's the time. Because step 4 is just so hard for us to do. But this is what we're invited into. Now, the good news is you're already good at taking inventory. You know how to do this. The bad news is we do it for other people. This guy's got some problems. Man, I could tell him what those are. But with inventory, we don't take somebody else's inventory. I take my inventory. And we all have a natural resistance to this one. I don't want to go there. It's like our kids were 5, 7, and 9. I came home from school one time and someone had them watching the movie Psycho, and they're all like this, like, don't go down into the basement. Norman Bates' mother is in the basement on that chair. That is going to be awful. I don't want to have to look at this stuff. But of course, the reality is, unless I look at it openly and clearly, I can never really be healed. I can never deeply change. Over the last week or two, I've been kind of on diaper duty real early in the morning, and not my own diaper, somebody else's. And the problem has been when I go in there, they don't want the light to be on. So I'll be like, yeah, go ahead and change me. Clean up this mess, but I don't want any light shed on it. Well, it's very hard to clean up a mess if the light doesn't get the shed on it. So now in step 4, we bring light into the darkness of our own character, into those nooks and crannies that not only do I avoid looking at, like I don't even know how to see them. So this would be real important. We must do this step. And again, you're not going to want to do it. I get it. It's okay. It doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. If you want to follow God, to examine yourself is a key part of spiritual life. But this is important. For this one, put on your thinker hat, not your feeler hat. Now, you might remember, if you've been through the steps, if you haven't yet, go back and look at the earlier videos. Step 1 was a step that we needed to take with all of our emotions and to feel deeply, I can't, I am helpless, I need God, because that sense of desperate neediness is part of what fuels us to engage the other 11 steps with really strong motivation. Now, in step 4, this is not a feeling step. This is kind of clinical. It's just you think through quite calmly, taking inventory. If a business does not take inventory of what they have and what they lack, they will be in real trouble, and we're the same way. We do not get changed like that. Another old statement in AA, if you sober up a drunken horse thief, what do you have? A horse thief. If you convert a pagan horse thief to Christianity, what do you have? You have a Christian horse thief. All of my problems, my habits, vices, patterns of wrong thinking and wrong wanting and wrong choosing, those are still in me, and God works to remove them one step at a time and invites me to be a part of that. And grace doesn't mean I don't have to look at that. It's like God forgives me for anything. Grace is the power, together with God, to look at these things. So the verse that we'll use over these few days, a couple of verses, a little passage from Psalm 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me or test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, the first part of what we learn here is self-examination is not something that we do on our own. A wonderful book I'll talk about using what are sometimes called the 7 deadly sins or the capital vices. There's a great book by philosopher Rebecca DeYoung on this, and she writes about how the reason it's crucial to recover the vices tradition and history is that they developed in a community of Christians seeking to live out their discipleship through daily disciplines and by the grace of God. Identifying and struggling against vice is not a purely human endeavor, and it is not an individualistic psychological self-help program. It is something that we can do only together with God and through His mercy. So now, God and I, search me, O God, and know my heart, my will, the core, my posture, my orientation. And then try me and know my anxious thoughts. So interesting in this process. Anxiety, fear seems to get into everything. God, where is fear lurking underneath my sin in ways that I don't even recognize it? And then see if there's an offensive way in me. What are my patterns of behaving, of relating with other people, words, both the wrong things that I commit and then the right things that I omit. God, help me to come to see those. And then there's a progression here. And then lead me to the way everlasting. But I will not be ready for that leading until the searching processes go on. And it will be different for every one of us. It will be unique to you. You're not cleaning up. You're not taking somebody else's inventory. Many years ago, Nancy was pregnant and somebody rear-ended her. And to her surprise, the next day, her back was in great pain. She had whiplash, didn't know that whiplash was a real thing. And so went to a certain kind of practitioner to have them help with her back. And they said, well, first of all, we got to take an x-ray. She was very alarmed by this. Like, I'm pregnant. You can't take my x-ray. So the next step, I'm not making this up, was they put up the x-ray of somebody else who they said had been through a similar experience and said, like, let's use their x-ray to treat you. No, no, no. You don't treat me based on your x-ray. And of course, the irony of our day is we have ever increasing sophistication, ways to examine what's wrong with our bodies or what might be wrong with our cars or termite inspection for our houses. But maybe less time than ever do we actually look at our character. Now, not just our psyche, but the state of our souls. So I want to invite you right now to take a moment to do this. And for today, we're going to use what Rebecca DeYoung writes about. They're sometimes called the 7 deadly sins. Old language for them was capital vices, which is a little bit better. A vice is something that gets in me. It's like a virtue. It's an acquired. So this is not genetic now. You may have a predisposition for cholesterol or for anger, something. A vice is something that I acquire for which I am at least partly responsible because I engage in this. I practice this. I allow this to go unchecked in my life, or I omit to do this. And capital was the head of something. The idea of these particular vices was that other problems that we have flow out of them. We often trivialize the 7 deadly sins in our day. One of them is gluttony. There were actually a group of French folks who apparently petitioned the Pope to have it removed. But if we understand them, there's a reason why they've been around for well over 1,500 years. You know, in the field of psychology, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual keeps changing the diagnoses every couple of years now. The 7 capital vices have been around for 1,500 years plus because they name something so deep. So I want to invite you right now just to reflect on your life quite calmly. We're going to do this over the next few days, but today we'll just use this little framework. And ask God, God, would you be with us now here in the fellowship of the withered hand? We all know we have stuff that we don't want to look at. Would you go with us into this basement and help us examine ourselves right now? And I'll just mention these 7 vices and you ask God, is there something I struggle with, God? Is there something I need to look at? You don't need to bother to try to figure it out right now or to solve it. You just want to become aware. So, is there pride? Do I get a sense of entitlement? Self-righteous towards others, sense of superiority? Anger? Do I nurse resentment? Get bitter in my words towards other? Lust? Are there ways that I manage my sexuality that are not pleasing to you or healthy for my relationships? Envy? Compare myself to others, want what they have? Gluttony, the idea here is demand. It could be food, could be experiences. There could be a kind of a spiritual gluttony. Just never satisfied, always more. And then greed. Am I a genuinely generous person? How am I dealing with my money? Or other resources that you give me? My time, my gifts. Am I freely using them to bless others? And then laziness. And that's not just sitting around eating bonbons and watching TV all days. Am I not doing what I know needs to be done when it needs to be done? All right, and now, after asking God to help us look at these things, we'll come back to this again tomorrow and come back to it again the next day. We're not done on this journey, but it's a real good thing to begin to be open. There may be moments today as you walk through this day, something happens, somebody has a conversation with you, and you see one of these in your life. Just thank you, God, for bringing that to the surface, although it hurts a bit. Help me to remember that you love me. Help me not to get neurotic or beating myself up on this. Help me not to just ignore it or squash it. Let me see what you see. And then remember that you are deeply and dearly loved. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Hey, you just finished an episode from our series Steps, which is based on John's new book releasing February 4th, also called Steps. So if you are catching this video before February 4th, you might want to pre-order that book. You can do that at our website, becomenew.com/steps. There you can also subscribe to the daily videos so that whenever we release a new episode, you'll be sure to receive it. We're a community that believes in spiritual growth one day at a time. And a part of that is prayer. So there is a team of us that meet each weekday, Monday through Friday, to pray for the Become New community and viewers just like yourself. If you have a prayer request, we'd love to pray for you. You can text it to us at 855-888-0444 or email it to us at connect@becomenew.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.